Welcome, everybody. We're going to get started here in just a moment. Before we do, just a little bit of housekeeping real quick. You should see down payment resource on the screen, down payment assistance, and the path to home ownership. Just put a little yes or thumbs up in the chat box if you can, if you hear my voice and see the screen, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, good deal, good deal. Looks like we're good to go. So, all right. Let's get started. We're recording this. My name is Sean Moss with Down Payment Resource, and today we're doing something that we have actually never done before. We wanted to build a webinar to talk to prospective homebuyers, to talk to renters about down payment assistance, what that means, and how it can help you on your path to home ownership. We did not promote this webinar to real estate agents or loan officers or anyone other than our subscribers and followers and so forth that have identified themselves as prospective home buyers. So we put this together today, especially for you. Those of you on this webinar are prospective buyers, renters, maybe thinking about home ownership, trying to navigate home ownership. What we want to do is shed some light on down payment assistance and give you some basic tips and next steps for how to explore home ownership. We also want to spend a little bit of time debunking a few myths. So here's our agenda. We want to keep this simple today. We want to basically compel you to explore pre-qualification, talk with a loan officer, talk with a real estate agent, talk with a homebuyer education provider, maybe even start with a homeownership counselor. And we're going to talk about those 4 roles in the homeownership process. But before we do that, we want to just talk a little bit about down payment assistance. What is that? What does it mean? What does it look like? Where and why and how and when is it available? We'll debunk a few myths. We're going to show you how to find not just down payment assistance, but the information that you need about those programs on our website. And then we'll talk about the 4 roles that are going to help you take the next steps: the homeownership counselor, the loan officer, the homebuyer education folks, and your real estate agent. So with that, let's dive in. What is down payment assistance? Now, these are loans potentially or grants that can help potential home buyers do several important things. One, achieve their down payment faster, meaning we all know you have to save for a down payment in order to purchase a home. It can take years to save the down payment through your own cash. If you don't have the option of a gift from family or other outlets, there are down payment programs out there that can help you accrue or accomplish that down payment a lot faster, meaning that can help you get into looking for a home and getting pre-qualified and thinking more seriously about home ownership sooner than perhaps you thought. It can also help cover closing costs. So when you get to the closing table, once you've gotten your mortgage, found a house, put a contract on a house, when you get to closing, there are a lot of closing costs, and those can add up to, and a lot of these programs can help cover those closing costs. And the end goal, of course, as I said, is to help get into a home sooner and to help start that home ownership journey sooner than maybe you thought you could, or sooner than you otherwise would have if you spent years trying to save up your money. Meanwhile, home prices go up, interest rates could go up, and so forth. So the cost of ownership down the road is more than it would be now, right? So some of those down payment programs are grants. That means it's a gift at closing. There is no second mortgage or anything like that. Some of them are second mortgages. Those can be forgivable. So if you stay in the home long enough, that down payment assistance program is forgiven, and then you're just left with the first mortgage and equity in the house. Some down payment programs require repayment over time. Some of them have deferred payments, and you pay it back when you sell the home years down the road. So they come in a lot of different forms, and they come from a lot of different kinds of down payment assistance providers. I'll start at the state level. Every state has a state housing finance agency. In some states, there are several entities that operate statewide and provide mortgage options and down payment assistance options, and in some cases, even tax credits. Likewise, local nonprofits or cities or counties, they will often have housing authorities or community development departments, and they get money from the federal government and from other sources, and they administer or they offer or provide to their market, that city, that county, down payment assistance programs. And again, they're all very different. It depends on where you are. It depends on what kinds of programs are available in that market. There are some employers that offer down payment assistance to recruit or to retain talent or employees. So, that's always an avenue worth exploring as well. See what your employer provides. So big picture, these programs come from all manner of government and quasi-government and municipal and nonprofit sources all over the country in every market. And there are programs in your market. Now they have income limits, they have purchase price limits, and we're not going to get into too much detail there. That's a conversation that's definitely worth having with the homeownership counselor and especially with your loan officer. And we'll talk about that later. But we want to ask a poll here. And by the way, we have some more staff in the background who are going to talk to you here shortly. And I apologize for not introducing them, but Tamara De La Cruz is on our team and she tracks and monitors down payment programs across the country. Fern White is part of our team. She's our account manager, has a background in homeownership counseling. And then Melinda is our marketing manager. They're all in the background answering questions, and you're going to hear from Tamara and Fern here shortly as well. But let's start with this poll. We just want to ask the question, and from your perspective, what do you believe the answer is? How much down payment do I need to buy a home? And the reason we ask is because we think there are some misperceptions out there. This isn't always clear in the news. It's not always clear in conversations and dialogues with some of the people you might be talking to. So we just want to make sure it's clear what the down payment expectations are. So we'll give everybody here a moment to click your answer on the screen. You can just click it right there on your screen. But tell us, how much down payment do you think you need to buy a home? And then we'll take a look at the results here as soon as we give everybody a moment to vote. We have a big crowd today, so we'll give you a couple seconds here. Okay. So the real answer is, it depends. The wrong answer is 10% to 20% down. So let's start from there. You do need 20% down if you want to avoid paying mortgage insurance. Okay, and a lot of people do, and if you put down less than 20%, often you will be required to pay mortgage insurance. But we're going to go through some of the down payment requirements here in just a moment, but we want to be clear. There are zero down options, especially for veterans, especially in rural markets. Most kind of conventional, if you will, standard mortgage products are 3 to 5% down payment. You do not have to save 10% or 20% down to purchase a home. Now, there may be benefits if you had that much money, but you don't have to have 20% down to purchase a home. And that's what we want to kind of combat here. So I'm going to close that out. Let's just take a look at what the down payment requirements are. One of the first myths that we hear all the time is that you have to have 20% down to be allowed to purchase a home. Now, the only benefit is maybe a better interest rate, and you also don't have to pay mortgage insurance anymore once you get to a 20% down payment. But FHA, that's a very common sort of government-backed mortgage. The requirement across the board, 3.5%. 3.5% down payment. FHA does a lot of loans for first-time homebuyers across the nation. There are conventional options. So when you think of Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, if you've heard of them, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are what we call conventional mortgages. They generally range from 3 to 5% down for their sort of standard mortgage products. If you have a military background, take a look at your VA eligibility, your eligibility for VA mortgages in particular, because eligible veterans can get a VA mortgage with 0% down. Likewise, if you're purchasing an eligible home in a rural market, USDA, or the Rural Development Department, another government entity, offers 0% down mortgages, mortgage options in rural markets. So that's just obviously a big overview. We can't get to all the details in 30 or 45 minutes, but we wanted to be clear. You do not have to have 10% or 20% down to purchase a home. That's misinformation that comes from misunderstandings coming out of the financial crisis 10 years ago or from wherever. But what you see on the screen here, these are the requirements, and there are often flexibilities built into those state housing finance agencies and other down payment program providers that open the door to potentially less, or that can help you cover that 3.5 or 3 or 5% down payment, or help you cover closing costs, maybe even in addition to some of the down payment help. So we wanted to combat that myth first, but there's another big myth that we think festers that isn't true, and we want to combat that as well. So we're going to launch another poll here. Tell us, true or false, I have to be a first-time home buyer to qualify for down payment assistance. Now, maybe some of you currently own or have owned recently or owned a home in the past. We're gonna look at the definition of a first-time home buyer. We'll start with that, but just tell us, as far as you know, true or false, you have to be a first-time home buyer to qualify for down payment assistance programs. And again, you can click your answer on the screen, and we'll give you a couple seconds to do that since we've got such a large crowd today. I'll also add, while we do this poll, feel free to put questions in the chat box if you have any comments, if you have any insights. Feel free to use that chat feature and submit your comments, submit your questions. We've got a team of people in the background that are here to help you out. Okay, so let's take a look at the results. So, okay, now we're more in line with the truth here, so this is good. You do not have to be a first-time home buyer to qualify for all down payment assistance programs. Now, it is true that many down payment assistance programs are for first-time home buyers only, or what we say is they have a first-time home buyer requirement in order to qualify for their down payment assistance program. But 3/4 of you recognize that that's not always the case. Not quite half, but a large portion of the down payment assistance programs that we track all over the country do not have a first-time homebuyer requirement, or they offer waivers. And let's start actually with the definition of a first-time homebuyer, because there are sort of waivers built into that. We're over 40% of the programs we track do not even have a first-time homebuyer requirement. But for those down payment assistance programs that do, remember this: a first-time home buyer, generally speaking, is someone who has not owned a primary residence, the home you live in the last 3 years. And really, if you remember one thing, just remember 3 years. If you owned and sold a home more than 3 years ago, and you haven't owned in the last 3 years, you're a first-time home buyer. For the purposes of all of these down payment assistance programs, it's basically as simple as that. There are sometimes exceptions for displaced homemakers. Married couples may qualify if just one of them is a first-time home buyer. And there are often exemptions for those with the military background as well. And there can be some other exemptions to that first-time home buyer rule, where even if you do have to be a first-time home buyer to qualify for a particular down payment assistance program, some of those scenarios may exempt you from that requirement and still allow you to qualify. So we wanted to make that point clear as well, because it's not necessarily the case, and you should not give up because of the perception or because somebody told you you have to be a first-time home buyer to get down payment assistance. That may be the case for some programs, but it is absolutely worth exploring which programs don't have that requirement if you have recently or currently owned a home. All right, so how do you find down payment help? Now, again, we're trying to keep this big picture, but we want to build toward some very specific, very actionable next steps for you. So how do you find down payment help? I'm actually going to go to our website here, and I'm going to walk you through this process. You don't have to pay anything to do this. Our website is built to provide you with information and details and next steps about down payment assistance in your area where you want to purchase a home. So if you go to downpaymentresource.com, and we'll send you the webinar and we'll send you a link to the site afterwards. Just click this big button right there on the home page, Find Down Payment Help. What that does is allow you to search for programs where you want to purchase a home. Now, the first distinction I'll make here is this is not related to where you currently live. So if you were going to move to a different city or a different county, you need to search for where you want to purchase a home. Now, you can do that two ways. I'll do a couple of searches here. I'm going to start in Atlanta. That's where we're based, but you can do this anywhere in the country, and you can see that from the screen here. But you can start with this general area search. I just started typing Atlanta. I'm going to pull up Atlanta, and just based on location, I don't have to go any further. I can already start to get the details of these programs. There are 18 options available. Now, as we mentioned earlier, these programs come from a lot of different kinds of organizations. So that's a lot of options, right? But we're going to show you some of the next steps you can take to figure out, okay, what's the best option for me? What's the best next step for me? I also want to point out, if you had a specific property in mind, you could actually plug in the name and the street name and the street number and the zip code, and we'll just map the property and tell you, we'll know the city and county and say, okay, here are those programs for that specific property. Now, that's all you have to enter. However, I will tell you, if you enter any other information about yourself or your household or your home purchase scenario, like, for example, estimated purchase price or household size, household income, whether or not you currently own a home. So your home ownership history, right? Essentially, are you a first-time home buyer? Let's say a single person making, I'm going to go with a whole number here, $50,000 a year. That starts to exceed income limits. But what if I had 4 people in my household? Well, it changes by household size, right? Now, you could go on and enter any of this information you want. We would encourage you to go all the way through the form, though, because if you have a military background, look at that. We go up to 26 just for a military background. Or let's say somebody in the household works in a profession for which there may be additional or unique down payment assistance programs. Is anyone in the household an educator? And by the way, that doesn't necessarily mean a classroom teacher. That could be faculty, that could be staff, it could be a pre-K teacher. What about law enforcement, first responders, healthcare workers? Doesn't have to be a nurse, right? It could be technicians, office staff, billing staff, and so forth. So it's worth checking off the profession, because in some markets, there may be additional programs for people who work in those professions. So let's say there's an educator in the house, okay? And there's a few other scenarios here that may apply, and there may be additional programs for down payment assistance. But let's go ahead and get the details, because I want to walk you through what information you get here. So my name is Sean. I'll plug in my email address. And let's say I am actively looking to buy. And let's go ahead and get the details of these programs. So we know there's 22 programs. I could get up to $20,000 in down payment help. Well, we're going to give you the information about those programs. So I want to point out a couple of things here. There are some options to get some assistance with Homebuyer Education and other things here. You can also see as we go, there's a Learn More button for each program. Now, here's the Hardest Hit Fund. These are going to be different in every market, right? These are the Atlanta, Georgia programs. I'll do another search here in just a moment, though. Here's one for protectors, educators, and nurses. Let's learn more about that. We can see already I can get $7,500, no interest, no monthly payments. Funds can be used for down payment, closing costs, prepaids. And let's say I want to learn more. I can do this from any program, right? You get the basics, you get the overview, but you can also scroll down and learn more. And there's a few important things to note here. The next step is talk to a homeownership counselor, maybe get an objective opinion. Fern's going to walk us through that in a moment. Talk to a lender who participates with this program. Not every lender, not every loan officer, not every mortgage company participates in every down payment assistance program, but we track the ones that do. So we will give you a link to the program provider and their website and their published list of lenders and mortgage companies that offer their program. That's a great place to start to go find a loan officer or ask your real estate agent. You can ask others for a referral, but if you need to, we give you access to the people who provide those programs, the mortgage companies that provide those programs. And if there are homebuyer education requirements, we give you information for that as well. So those are a couple of very important next steps. And I'll also point out, just for the sake of clarity here, that is available for every program, right? So no matter what program you open up, we're going to give you a link to all of the details we have, everything available on that program provider's website. And just to make the point that this is nationwide, I'll show you here. Let's say, I'll make this up. Let's say Chicago, okay? Let's say we wanted to purchase a home in Chicago. I will break that down to Cook County. Now I could enter anything else I want here. Let's say this time I don't want to enter income information. Maybe I'm a first-time home buyer, but I think my estimated purchase price is, let's say, I don't know, let's say 175. That's about the nationwide average. Okay. And let's say nobody in the house is a teacher, nobody's got a military background. Let's check out our 27 programs. And again, we get the list. We've got state programs. We've got programs from local entities. Here's another statewide. There's a city program. You never know. There could be a lot there, right? So any of these programs, you open it up. You can use your lender of choice here. So it's up to the lender whether or not they participate. But all of that detail is always available to you, and you don't have to pay. You don't have to subscribe to anything. This site is made for you to find out what kind of help is out there. Okay, so again, go to downpaymentresource.com and click Find Programs. All right, now, we want to talk about next steps here, and I'm going to introduce you to Fern White. She's our account manager. She deals with a lot of our mortgage and lender customers, real estate customers, and she deals with their strategies for connecting with consumers and educating them about down payment assistance options. So I'm going to transition here to Fern, and we're going to talk about where to go from here. So Fern, take it away.
Great, thanks, Sean. So you've learned how to find down payment assistance programs in your area. Now, what's the next step? There are several advisors you will work with as you seek homeownership. One of those advisors is a homeownership counselor. A homeownership counselor from a HUD-approved nonprofit counseling agency can help prepare you for homeownership. Most down payment and closing cost assistance programs will require that you complete a Homebuyer Education course to qualify for their program. The Homebuyer Education course takes you through the entire process of becoming a homeowner. You'll also work with the loan officer to discuss mortgage options. So the loan officer can also pre-qualify you for a mortgage and can help you determine which down payment programs will provide the most benefit to you based on your mortgage type. Another advisor whom you will work with during your home buying process is a real estate agent. Your real estate agent discusses your housing needs, the location of your home, and works on your behalf to get you to closing. Now, your agent may or may not be familiar with down payment and closing cost assistance programs. So after today, if you are working with an agent, ask your agent if he or she is aware of DPAs. If they are not, make sure they connect with the lender who can help. So the goal here is to make sure that you know and understand your options so that you become an educated and empowered home buyer. So now, what happens when you attend a homeownership counseling session? At a high level, the housing counselor is the objective resource that will guide you through the entire process of becoming a homeowner. Counseling sessions can be done face-to-face or online. So currently, due to COVID-19, sessions have shifted more towards online counseling. The counselor will take a look at your income and expenses and tell you how much you can actually afford versus what you think you can afford. The housing counselor will look at your net income, which is what's left over after taxes, and maybe you have some health insurance. And then the counselor will walk through all of your expenses and help you set up a budget. Now, something for you to think about as you seek homeownership is after your normal monthly expenses of rent, utilities, your cell phone, maybe you have a car payment as well. Think about what you are spending on dining out, on entertainment, on clothing. Maybe there are some areas where you can cut back so that you can build up some savings as you go through the home buying process. And remember, when you become a homeowner, right, you may need to purchase some new appliances. You're getting into that home. You need to purchase that washer and dryer, refrigerator, stove. You're going to want to buy new furniture. But most importantly, just remember that you will need to be prepared for any basic maintenance. If your heater goes out, you're going to have to replace that. So there's no one you can call when you become a homeowner. So that's all on you. So just remember, setting up a budget and having some savings really helps provide a cushion for those expenses. Now, the housing counselor will also look at your credit. How well do you pay your bills? Do you pay them on time or after the due date? Are you maxing out your credit cards? Are you paying only the minimum amount due? Paying on time consistently over a period of time can increase your credit score. So a 10 to 20 points rise in credit score could really get you better terms on your mortgage. And depending on your credit history at the time you enter into counseling, you may not be ready for homeownership, may or may not, but right, that's the point of counseling. Once you know where you stand, you can take action towards your goal of becoming a homeowner. And finally, the counselor is also there to help you understand your options related to down payment assistance programs. So I highly recommend that you take a homebuyer education course. Even if you don't qualify for down payment assistance, the knowledge and insight gained will make you a successful homeowner. So Sean, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, thanks, Fern. And so another partner of yours in your homeownership journey is going to be your loan officer. This is somebody who can help you qualify for a mortgage. That's the big loan that helps pay for the house, and explore mortgage options. And if you recall earlier, we looked at different down payment requirements based on different mortgage types. FHA, a government-backed loan, provides for a mortgage with 3.5% down. There's Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, conventional mortgages. There are a lot of mortgage options out there, and it's important to start that conversation with a loan officer to understand the mortgage options and what that payment is going to be. But also, as you do that, discuss down payment requirements as well as down payment assistance opportunities in your market, and make sure you're working with a loan officer who offers those opportunities or participates in those programs. Because as I mentioned earlier, not every mortgage company or lender participates in every down payment program. So it's important to work with someone who participates with the programs that are available in your market that you think work for you. Coordinate your loan documents. You're going to have to provide pay stubs, W-2s. They're going to look at your credit. They're going to look at tax returns and perhaps other documents. So be prepared. Go ahead and start organizing those things. Recent pay stubs, recent bank statements, any retirement accounts you might have. Be prepared to have a conversation about your tax returns and about your credit history, but get all that stuff ready to go so that when you get to the loan officer and start that conversation, you've got your loan documents ready to go. That makes the loan officer able to more quickly get you through the process, finalize your mortgage pre-qualification, which you then will take to your realtor. The realtor is going to most likely want to see that pre-qualification letter from the mortgage lender that says, my client, your name, is approved for up to this much to purchase a home. And once you sign a contract, I will finalize the loan. That's essentially what the pre-qualification letter says. Your real estate agent is going to use that when they help you find homes and make offers on homes. And Tamara's going to walk us through what the realtor helps you with in a moment. And then most importantly, as you proceed, so once you get pre-qualified and once you have that letter in your hand and you go off to work with your realtor, keep your loan officer updated. They're going to need to know when you reach certain milestones so they can keep your loan moving forward, especially once you sign a purchase contract, because that kicks off another round of documentation and the loan officer matching everything up to that property. So with that, your loan officer is another critical partner. And I want to introduce Tamara De La Cruz. She's a part of our team. She's got deep experience with state housing finance agencies and their mortgage and down payment assistance programs, as well as a real estate background and experience teaching these homebuyer education courses and first-time homebuyer courses. So Tamara, walk us through homebuyer education and then the realtors.
Okay, so as Sean said, homebuyer education is very important. Not all programs require it, but usually if you're a first-time homebuyer, they do. And some programs require it for everybody. It is very, very vital that everybody take this class. So it is required for a lot of down payment assistance programs. It goes through the entire process of buying a home, along with expectations of owning a home and the things that can come up. You must use a HUD-approved counseling agency, and the HUD website has those listed, as well as most programs also have a link out to the HUD-approved counseling agencies for that state. Keeping in mind that these programs are different per state. So whatever state you're in, there will be different DPA programs available to you. There are a lot of online options. In fact, right now with everything we're going through, most homebuyer education classes are done online. And even after we get past this, there are some that allow it to be online. And the better educated a buyer is, the better successful, they're going to be a lot more successful. So the more you know is always something that's going to benefit you. And there are times when you don't necessarily have to have both first-time home buyers take that class. Maybe it's just one in the household, maybe it is two. Okay, Sean, so let's move over to the realtor. Now, your realtor is extremely important. They're going to be the person that you discuss your housing needs with. They're going to be the person that helps you determine where you want to buy. They can provide you with information about the schools and the area and the different factors that might be important to you as far as what you want to get out of the area you're living in. They're the ones that will go over what the earnest money expectation is. They're also the ones that will help you get that earnest money over to the escrow or title company once you have an accepted offer. So on top of it, they obviously are the ones that are going to write your offers, negotiate them with the seller's agent, and then also make sure that you're finding your dream home. Now, once you have a contract in place, it's very important that within a certain amount of time, you do your inspections and you request any repairs that might be needed for those inspections. And your realtor is the person that's going to help you do all of that, working hand in hand with your loan officer to make sure that everything is done timely and that you are kept informed throughout the whole process. Back to you, Sean.
Okay, well, thanks, Tamara. Thanks, Fern. And for those of you submitting questions in the chat, Melinda has been in the background as well. So we left time here because we wanted to take your questions. We know that this was maybe sort of high level. We wanted to give you some basics. We wanted to give you the next steps, and we wanted to talk about the partners in this process: the real estate agent, the loan officer, the homebuyer education provider, and the housing counselor. Those are the people that are going to get you through the home ownership journey. Those are the people that you'll be dealing with as you begin that journey. So I hope that's been helpful, but we also know that many of you are currently renters or are prospective home buyers and may have a lot of questions. So we left time here to take those questions. Melinda, if you want to sort of MC this, are you seeing any trends, anything that we need to address?
Yeah, we have had so many questions, and I'm excited about that. You guys, there is a Q&A panel, so if you don't mind, enter your questions there. That's just a little easier for us than trying to keep up with the chat. But please continue to answer questions. One trend that I have seen quite a bit, and I know that this varies widely, but I've seen quite a few questions on credit. People want to know if there is a credit score range or a minimum or maximum. So I don't know what you can say on that, Sean, but maybe speaking to that a little bit.
Yeah, so it varies by program, right? And myself, Fern, Tamara, Melinda, we've all spent years tracking and monitoring these programs. I suppose I'll offer a quick answer on behalf of the team. The low to mid 600s is kind of the floor on most of these down payment programs. That's the minimum credit score requirement that you'll need in order to qualify for a lot of down payment assistance programs. So I would say 620 to 640. Yeah, 620 to 640 is kind of the low end. Some of them might be 660, 680. So it depends on the program, but a loan officer that knows these programs can help you.
Yeah, another question that we've had quite a bit, Sean, is layering. If you want to speak on layering programs a little bit.
Yeah, sure. It's certainly possible to, for example, go to a loan officer who works with your state housing finance agency. You would get the mortgage and maybe some down payment assistance through the state housing finance agency. But if your city also offers a down payment assistance program, it is possible to combine that. So you would have two down payment assistance programs. Obviously, that means there are more parties involved and you need to be working with your loan officer to coordinate something like that. But it's certainly possible.
Okay, thanks. And then something else, and Sean, if you touched on it and I missed it, I apologize, but I've had a few questions about the impact of COVID-19 on these programs and if they are still available.
Short answer, and the simple answer is yes. Down payment assistance is absolutely available. Not a single state housing finance agency has shut down throughout this process. Cities and counties that maybe have had to close the doors on the municipal offices have struggled to keep their programs going in some cases, but that has not been rampant. So yes, absolutely. Down payment assistance is still out there. In fact, we wrote a blog post about that a few weeks ago. And we track and monitor whether or not these programs have money. And you see that when you do a search on downpaymentresource.com.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. I'm sorry. We have tons of questions coming in, and I know Tamara and Fern are trying to answer them. I'm just kind of scrolling through. I do have a few questions that I've answered regarding property type. A lot of people wanted to know if programs accept new construction, like from a builder, if you can buy manufactured housing. So maybe just speak a little on property types that are accepted.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, almost universal is single family detached homes. So just, a standalone single family home. Most programs will allow condos or townhomes. A lot, I wouldn't say a majority, but a lot of programs will allow manufactured homes. A lot of programs will allow new construction. So obviously you have to get through the construction of the home before you're able to close and use the down payment assistance program. But there are certainly many programs that allow new construction homes as well. And there are in some markets, depending on where you are, maybe you're in Boston, Chicago, someplace like that, where multifamily properties are more common, where you would buy a 2 or 3 unit residential property. As long as you live in one, some markets allow that as well. And then of course you'd rent the other two. So I think that's the short answer.
Yeah, and then I know this varies as well, but a lot of questions along with credit, a lot of questions about income. And we actually had a pretty unique question too about, if their employment status has changed recently during the COVID crisis.
Yeah, so income matters for a couple of reasons. One, you have to have the income sufficient to support the mortgage payment that you will absorb. But a lot of these programs also have income limits where if you make more than some amount, you wouldn't qualify for that down payment program. Doesn't mean you can't get a mortgage, just to be clear. Just means that you may not qualify for that down payment assistance program if your income is too high. Now, that said, there are some pretty high income limits for a lot of programs. Some of them are, the median market income or maybe a little bit less. Those are the limits, but some of them go way above the market median incomes. And Mel, actually, I'm watching the Q&A here. I might do this. I might just go to the bottom and just fire off answers because, I mean, we've got dozens and dozens of questions and they keep coming in. So let me just do kind of like a rapid fire here.
Yes, great idea, because there are so many great questions. I don't even know where to start. I'm like picking and choosing. So yes, go.
Yeah. All right. So, and guys, we still have at least 6-7 minutes left. So stick around. Let's fire away here. So, okay, where was I? Oh, they just keep coming. What is a tax credit? We didn't even get into that, but ask your loan officer about a mortgage credit certificate. It's a tax credit that stays with you the life of loan, and you use it every year when you file your taxes. Let's see. If you're a first-time home buyer and you've opted to use FHA loans, can you still participate or request down payment assistance? Absolutely. If you're getting an FHA loan, ask your loan officer about down payment assistance. Better yet, go to our website, downpaymentresource.com, find out which down payment assistance programs are there, and then go back to your loan officer and discuss those. But absolutely, these programs are very commonly used with FHA mortgages. I want to get MIPA. Where can I apply for it? I think that is in Los Angeles, Judy. Correct me if I'm wrong. You would apply through your loan officer, and they will work with the down payment assistance provider. Let's see, can DPAs allow for multifamily homes? Yes, I covered that, up to 2 to 4 unit in some cases in some markets. That's not a common housing type in every market, but there are a lot of down payment assistance program providers that will allow for 2 or 3 or 4 unit properties to be purchased with their program. Let's see, what about student loans? Could I still purchase a home? Absolutely. The student loan payment will be factored into your overall debt. And, as long as the debt to income ratios are in line, then yes, you can still purchase a home. That's a great question. And I want to address the bigger issue there. Student loans and down payment. Those are the two most frequently cited obstacles to home ownership. Don't let that prevent you from talking to a loan officer or talking to a homeownership counselor. Or if you need a referral to one, call a realtor, right? But don't let those prevent you from having a conversation about down payment assistance. Now, if you have student loans, did you go to school? Did you graduate? Did you get a job? Do you have income? Okay, well, yeah, let's see if you can leverage that to buy a home. But don't remain silent just because you have student loans. Keep the dialogue going and see what's possible. What's the first step in buying a home? Should I do a down payment assistance program? Yes, first step, go talk to a homeownership counselor and or a loan officer, and then they will discuss with you your down payment options. Let's see, for down payment programs who are out of funds, when does the year begin? Daniel, that depends. It depends on where the money comes from, and it can come from any number of sources. Seasonal funds like that, some are in the spring, some are in the fall. And well, it's really kind of all year long. It depends on where you are. But keep checking in and look at the other options available in your market. Don't wait for one down payment program if others are available. See what's out there. Let's see. Generally in the process of buying and being approved to buy a home, how many times is the credit checked for mortgage approval? Typically once up front. Now, if that credit report is only going to be good for so long, maybe it's 90 days, maybe it's 180 days. At some point, they may have to update the credit report. And also, if you're working on credit and paying things off, they're going to have to update as well. Let's see. I've been told my income is too high. Jamal, probably not too high to buy a home. So remember that. Maybe you don't qualify for down payment assistance. Also, make sure you're looking into all of the available down payment assistance programs, but that doesn't mean you can't buy a home. It just maybe means that you may have to look at other down payment options. If your credit score is this is from Tina, if your credit score is on the low to mid 600s and you have a cosigner with the high 700s, will that help? Yes, Tina. I would also add, though, that when you get into cosigners, every down payment assistance program will treat that scenario differently. Certainly many allow it. May depend on whether or not they're going to occupy the property, but definitely have the conversation. Again, don't sit around and not ask anybody, a loan officer in particular, because you have an assumption that it won't work. Call them, talk to them, and just see what your options are. Because if you don't call and talk to them, then you just, the home ownership process is never going to come your way. Let's see. Is this the best time to be buying a house due to COVID? It's tough. You probably can't go see the house in person. Interest rates have literally never been lower, ever. So, and there's down payment assistance out there. So, I mean, I think in that regard, Charlene, yeah, it's a great chance. Is there a down payment assistance program specifically for seniors 65 and over? Betty, no. Restricting by age would be illegal. So you're eligible for the same down payment program as an 18-year-old. I mean, once you can sign a contract, then you're eligible for down payment assistance. Let's see, what are the average income limits for assistance? Heather, they're all over the place. I think we've covered that a little bit here. It could be, 80 to 100% of the average median income in the market. It could be a lot higher, and it differs by program. So again, talk to a loan officer. Let's see. Income is 80 to 85. Credit is about 640. Can I qualify for down payment assistance? Probably. Yeah. See what's in your market. Let's see. Tesha, is it wise to pay off my student loans before applying for a mortgage? I would suggest talking to a homeownership counselor and or a loan officer about the impact of paying off your loans. I mean, if you're close to having them paid off and you have the money to do that, sure, it's good. But keep in mind, as we talked about, there are costs to owning a home. And as soon as you get into that home, you don't have a landlord to call. It's on you. So, if you had, enough to pay off a small to medium sized balance remaining student loan, you might want to talk to a loan officer first and see if it's better to keep the monthly payment and have that cash handy when you buy a home, or use it for a down payment in part. So again, talk to a loan officer. These are all great questions, guys, and we're going to do the best we can to give you a reasonable, sound answer. But I think the first answer to most of your questions is go ask a loan officer in the context of pre-qualifying for a mortgage, because you're clearly interested based on these questions. A lot of you are on the cusp. You're thinking about it. You're getting more serious about home ownership. Go talk to a loan officer and explore your options. We're trying to compel you to do that, but we're not lenders ourselves. Let's see. Is it possible to get a DPA for homes that are being auctioned? Potentially, although, Katina, I would add that process usually happens pretty fast. Just negotiating the contract and all that, I'm not sure how that would work. But again, talk to a loan officer and probably a realtor in that case. Melanie, do they take the lowest score to qualify? Typically the middle. They'll pull all three and take the middle. Thelma asked a similar question, so I think that covers. Let's see. I have student loans, but I'm also eligible for loan forgiveness because I'm a public servant. For buying a house, could that have an impact? That's an interesting scenario. It depends on, I don't know if you're a teacher or healthcare or something, but depends on when that forgiveness is. But yes, that is gonna impact your mortgage pre-qualification, because if you're 1 year into a 10-year forgiveness period, they're probably gonna count that debt. If you're 4 years into a 5-year forgiveness period, the rules might be different. But again, as with everybody else, Claudia, talk to a loan officer because you got a good thing going there. And thank you for your public service too. Okay, so wow, that was fast, and we still have, guys, we're not gonna be able to get to all these questions. Do the down payment. Let me see, what time is it? Yeah, so we're at our 45 minutes. So Mel, what do you think? Should we keep going for a couple minutes? I'm fine to do that.
Yeah, totally up to you. We've got some great questions and they keep coming in. So I'll leave it up to you, Sean.
Okay. Yeah, let's keep going for a couple minutes. They're still coming in. And guys, we're still not going to get to everything, but I hope we're covering most of what you're curious about here. Aaron, do the down payment programs only work with a specific realtor or lender? On the lender side, yes. You do need to work with a lender who participates in programs. And as we mentioned, not every lender does every program, right? So talk to 2 or 3 and get a feel for where your best options are. As for real estate agents, work with whoever you want. They're going to help you kind of on the home search side, and they're going to be closely tied to your loan officer, but you're not limited to a real estate agent for any down payment assistance.
Hey, Sean, can I interject for just a moment?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm seeing a lot of questions about income. And one thing to keep in mind, guys, is depending on what state you live in, the down payment assistance programs are going to be different. And within each state, each program, because there's usually multiple program providers, they will all have their own income limits. Some don't have income limits. A lot of them do. So it's going to vary depending on where it is that you live. If you live in a high cost area, if you happen to live in something called a targeted area, there's a lot of different things that kind of go into that. So one of the best things to do is, use the DPA widget that we have, find out what programs are in your area, and kind of check those out on their websites. They're going to give you an overview of what their requirements are, and they will also provide you with a list of loan officers who are qualified and approved to be able to do those programs. So a lot of times, you want to talk to a loan officer, but if you know beforehand what programs are available, and you have that knowledge and you know what loan officers can do those programs, a lot of times that's kind of the best way to start. Thanks, Sean.
Yeah, thank you. And Fern, I'm going to come to you in a second. 2 questions I keep seeing though. I want to address lease to purchase. So several of you have asked, is lease to purchase a good option, especially for saving for a down payment, maybe while I'm working on credit? Yes, great option, right? And it gives you time to work on credit to accrue some more savings. Plus the lease purchase contract should be accruing some down payment for you that's usable at the end of that lease. I would say don't wait till the end of the lease to start the mortgage process. Start it 6 months in advance, or at least 3 or 4 months at the very least. But don't wait till the lease is up to start the process of purchasing that property and getting that mortgage. The other thing I keep seeing is earnest money. What is earnest money? Is it the same as down payment? Not really, but in a sense. So earnest money is a good faith deposit that you give to the seller of the house you're buying with the contract up front to say, here's how serious I am. Sometimes it's 500, sometimes it's 1,000. Doesn't generally have to be a whole lot more than that, but it's confirmation that you are making an offer in good faith and putting a little bit of money on the line. Now you get credited for that at closing, but that is not, typically it's not enough to be your down payment on the house. But it's not really the down payment. It's just a good faith deposit on the contract that gets credited back to you at closing. So the seller doesn't keep that money. It's just, good faith up front. But Fern, let me ask you, I know you're answering questions in the background too. Are you seeing any themes, anything you want to address?
I was just in the middle of answering one. So I'm looking at one here. There's a question about AMI. So that's area median income. So there are programs that do have target areas where they're looking for people to purchase within a specific area. And so in order for you to purchase and qualify for down payment assistance in that area, then your income could be no more than 80% of whatever the area median income is for that particular target area. So in some instances, you may see 60% of area median income, meaning your income cannot be above 60% of the median income for that particular area in which you're looking to purchase. So you may see 60%, you may see 80%, or you may see 120% of area median income. So that's what that means. So you would look at the income for the particular area in which you live and take 60% or 80% or 120% of that income, and that's how you can determine whether or not you meet the income qualifications for that program.
Good deal. Let's see. So
let me interject one more thing that I'm seeing too, Sean, is a lot of people are, I'm seeing a lot of questions about people who have inherited homes, or people who have purchased a home but not lived in it. The definition of a first-time home buyer, as far as buying a home is concerned, is not having lived in a primary residence in the last 3 years. Okay, so if you inherited a home, but you've never lived in that home, say a family member passed, if you never lived in that home, if that home has not been your primary residence within the last 3 years, you are considered a first-time home buyer. If you say you, for whatever reason, bought a home, lived in it, and then rented it out, and you have not lived in it in the last 3 years, and not purchased another primary residence in the last 3 years, you are considered a first-time home buyer. If you bought a home and you sold it within the last 3 years, you're not considered a first-time home buyer because it hasn't been 3 years. But once that 3 years is up, you can be. So I've owned 3 homes in my life, but I have not owned one and lived in one in the last 3 years. So I am considered a first-time home buyer. And just keep in mind, though, that if you have lived in a house that maybe you inherited and it is your primary residence, programs are still available for people who are not first-time home buyers. So there are options.
Yeah, I'm seeing more about student loans here too. Anitra, I'm worried about my student loans. LaFrancis, I have a lot of student loan debt. So guys, just explore your options. I mean, you're paying rent, or presumably you're paying rent somewhere. Explore your options for, a reasonable home that you own that helps you build equity and build wealth that, you can qualify for based on your income, including your student loan debt. At least have that conversation with a loan officer. Maybe start with a homeownership counselor in your area if you need to. But I can't stress enough, we just encourage you to go have that conversation, because if you can, especially with mortgage rates as low as they are, they literally cannot get lower. It's just, you couldn't ask for a better combination of low rates and down payment assistance. So we would encourage you, even if you have student loans, yes, it's a burden. Yes, you have concerns, but see what the options are. Talk to a loan officer about what your options are. Guys, I'm seeing some people request that we sort of summarize this in a communication. We will send a recording of this webinar, and we've been recording, I believe, Mel, the whole time, even this Q&A. So we'll include that. We still have dozens of unanswered questions, and we've answered hundreds already, either in writing or on this. So
can I just one more quick thing, Sean, I've seen a lot of questions asking about finding a housing counselor. Just want to remind everyone to go to HUD.gov, and you can find a counseling agency in your area that way. That's the best way, the quickest way for you to find a HUD-approved housing counseling agency.
Yeah, and so let's do this. Let's all just kind of wrap it up here. I see one question. I think I'll end with this. Clarence asks, I rent now, but I pay my roommate my share of rent, and then she pays the landlord because the lease is in her name. How can I show or prove that I pay the rent? Great question. For those of you renting, pay in checks, pay in money orders, pay in something that is documentable, because if you're doing it in cash, it's going to be harder to document that in bank statements and so forth. So don't pay cash. You're paying the same amount, right? But write a check, pay with a money order, do something that you can document, and then keep records of that, because you will be asked to show history of rent payment. So I'll leave with that. Why don't we go Fern, Mel, Tamara, if you guys have closing thoughts based on what you've seen today.
I think really
Go ahead, Fern.
No, I was just going to say, based on the questions that I'm seeing, I would just really encourage everyone to find a housing counselor to kind of work with them to make sure that they really understand the process, and someone that can actually go through their credit report with them and answer all of these same questions that you're asking us today. The Homeownership Counselor is the perfect person to help kind of, get you going, get you started so that you'll know exactly what you need to do. So great questions. So I'm just, encouraging everyone to take that first step, and good luck with your homeownership journey.
And just to also back up what Fern said, the homeownership counselor is going to be the person that knows the local programs. They're going to know the state programs. They're going to be able to help you know what programs to look at, but also too, they can guide you to the list of loan officers that are available for those programs. And that way, you're kind of headed down the right road. But as Fern said, talking to a homeownership counselor is a lot more than just finding out what classes to take. They can help you throughout the entire process and help you know what to look for in the future as well. So it is very important to talk to one of them. And we will have more of these webinars. This has been a success. So stay tuned, guys.
Yep, Mel, any parting words, final observations?
No, just a reminder again to everyone, we're going to send out a recording of this webinar. So, and we will include the Q&A. We have been recording the whole time. So, you guys will everyone that registered will receive a copy of that. So hopefully that'll help answer some of these additional questions.
Excellent. Well, it looks like a huge crowd stuck around. Thank you, guys. Have a conversation with a homeownership counselor, talk to a loan officer, explore home ownership. We still have questions coming in. We can't get to all of them today. We apologize, but we wanted to compel you to ask these questions because we want you to explore home ownership. So continue that dialogue, continue down this path. Good luck to you, and go to our website to look for down payment assistance help, and you can reach out to us through there if you have further questions. Thank you, guys. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you.